side. Massive number of people have been upriding. Yes.
There you go. You see the graceful limb that you were talking about before.
The race we've got yet again, and a victor then goes victory to an American, Andy Hampton.
The felt it go by. He looks at the Colombian rider. How are you doing?
Straight past Santiago Botero, and he's coming up to Pantani.
Armstrong is sitting in the last few hundred metres as we come towards the finish of this monumental stage. And Armstrong,
as we start to approach the line now, Pantani grits his teeth and accelerates and over the line.
Is going now to win stage number 15. Sepp Kuss, an emotional finish from Durango in the USA. Sepp Kuss wins.
Welcome, stage 15, Tour 2025, Tour de France. This is Tyler Yonke, the Between Two Wheels podcast. We are getting very close to getting this race over. We've got a week though, and this last week could be, look, it's all done and over. Tade's won, or has he? I'm holding out some hope. Not a lot, but at least some hope. But with that, we're still having hope for a few things, which is American win. We'd like to see that. It's getting slim chances, though, and we're going to talk a little bit about why on multiple levels. Yesterday might have been our best chance. We'll see. Today, there was another shot at it, but I think that's coming to an end. It's Quinn Simmons' chances, Captain America, but we will talk about that once again. Stage 15. This one is, well, let's first take a look and see where we are. We're down here in the southern part of France. Carcassonne. It goes to Muret to Carcassonne. And we're over on the far left here on the map is the Pyrenees. And then on the right is the Alps, which borders over here on Switzerland and Italy. And you see this Carcassonne, and then they're going to have a rest day. They're going to do this transfer over here. Then they're going to race Montpellier to Mont Ventoux. Now, Ventoux is, while it's technically in the at the Alps, it's not even considered in the Alps. So there's a weird thing to it. It's very much like we're getting there. We're going to the Alps. This is how it was. If you're new to this whole situation, as you can see, they used to say it where, 1 year they would go clockwise and then counterclockwise. It's usually the odd years. And they pretty much do that. The odd years, they hit the Pyrenees first, and then the Alps, and then the even years, they hit the Alps and then the Pyrenees. And they start up in the north and they work their way around. This is always within the, usually. They've had it a little bit different. Anyway, that's the way we're looking at it. I want to point out, I mentioned yesterday, I put it in the chat, our friends, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of their show specifically. Something with a P. I'll look it up, but I put it in our thing. They've been watching this show, and they do the 30-minute recap. They just play it out on Rumble, and I found it interesting, and I like these guys. I watch as much stuff as you can handle. I can't handle Bob and Phil. Once again, I always say Phil, but Phil's dead. No, Phil Liggett, he's alive. Paul is dead. Bob Roll and Phil, I have a tough time with them, partly because when I'm watching the cycling as it's going on, I've talked about this multiple times. I like to have a very deep analysis given to me. But I understand. I grew up with these guys, and I'm going to play a little bit of some stuff here, not related to that, but that highlights it. I mean, I grew up with these guys. The first Tour de France I ever watched, I knew about the 1986 Tour de France with Greg LeMond, but the first one I watched religiously was the 1987. It was the second time. Greg LeMond's not in there, and it's kind of, I'm going to bring that up in a little bit when we talk about Mont Ventoux, maybe even do a rest day episode tomorrow about Mont Ventoux, and if we don't get to too much of it today. But I've enjoyed those guys. So there's multiple aspects of analysis, and you get, and I pick up something from everybody. So I'm watching these guys, and maybe they're not, they don't follow it to the extent I do, but you still find some interesting things, or it's interesting to hear other people's perspective on all these kind of things. Now, I try to give you my level, and then I watch Escape Collective. I listen to the cycling podcast. Lance Armstrong's The Move is almost unlistenable unless you just want to be bombarded with ads. Although I listened to it today because Bradley Wiggins says a lot of good stuff. And Lance said a few things today that I was like, okay, you know, sometimes he comes across, I'm like, I don't understand how he ever won these tours. I guess he was so juiced up. Maybe that was the reason. But sometimes you wonder with his analysis how he got there. But, you know, then you realize, okay, maybe he's just acting like a tard. Okay, so there we are. But here's the thing we have on tap today. 169.3 kilometers, basically right at 100 miles, a little over. Muret to Carcassonne. Now, they could do that route, which we will look at here. Here's an interactive map. They could do this from, why does this do this? They could do this, the start to the finish here, and not hit any climbs, because when they head up to the north part, this section over in here, that's where they start to get the climbs. If they just came straight down here, this would be a sprinter's day, okay? But they're not doing that. And Terry Gouveneau, the guy that's coming up with the races, I think he's literally said the sprint stages are boring me. They're a little boring, so we're gonna add some other aspects. And you've seen how the races and you know things. And this is actually the stuff. I think, was it Lance? Maybe it was them. No, I don't think it was him that was talking about that. I was gonna give him credit for something, but I would have been wrong. So anyway, that's the route you have today. Once again, goes up there a little bit. There's the profile, and let's take a look. Well, remember, Arnsman won yesterday, but who dropped out and who didn't make it? We had Skilmos. He hit DNF, also Steph Kras. He had some trouble there, Total Energies. Mateo Skilmos, he hit the pylon. He tried to jump the curb. He was coming around the corner, and he thought he'd just jump the median and make some time up. And instead, he hit the barrier that's just in there, and he messed up his arm and a bunch of stuff. Remco Evenepoel obviously dropped out. We heard a little bit more about his, and then Brian Cocard didn't start. He had broken a finger, I want to say, on How to Come stage, perhaps, with a feed bag. Yeah, it was How to Come. He was getting a feed bag in the feed zone. Got it, broke his finger, finished, did the time trial, and then actually just DNF. Or after the time trial, he said, I'm just done. And he went home. So no more Brian Cocard to throw around. He took out Jasper Philipsen. Remember that on the sprint stages here. Remco, though, saying that he didn't actually, from the Dauphiné, which is like the precursor to the Tour de France. It's also run by ASO. It's a week-long stage race, a few weeks before the tour. It's always kind of like, hey, and we had everybody there. There was, you know, Jonas. I don't think Primoz was there, but Tadej was, and so was Evenepoel. He said he didn't ride from there to the tour. Now, he lost some weight. So his preparation, some things are off this year for Jonas. I'm sorry, for Remco. And I think his sobbing yesterday, it was a little too much. I get it. But if you didn't have the preparation and you weren't quite ready for this, then you don't need to be crying about it. It's okay. Shit happens. Let's go here. This is another look at yesterday's, let me see, I'm bringing this one, at yesterday's crash, I think. Yeah, Skilmos' crash. This is coming from the other side. Let's take a look here. Now, you see this arrow sign right here on the left? Everyone's going around it. He's going to skip the curb and hit it. Here he comes. Yeah, so I'm sure that I'm not everybody. He was the first one that went around that area, so it's kind of like at some point you're like, come on, Skilmos, there you go. All right, we've already looked at today's stage. There it is. Let's take a look at the situation we have going. Actually, before we do that, I do want to look here. Let's go back to where Arnsman was in here, because I think it's GC. We know what the GC is, 4 minutes over Vingegaard. But let's start looking at the points, because this is where it's fascinating. You have Jonathan Milan, pure sprinter, 251. You have Pogacar at 223, and Van der Poel, pure classic, you know, former world champion, at 190. Okay, and then Biniam Girmay is at 169. I think Biniam's out of it. Okay, he's almost 100 points behind Milan. So, but what do we have going on today? We have 20 points up to grab for the sprint. Okay, but points at the finish, there's 50 points at the finish. So that's a lot of points being stacked at the finish, and you're going to start seeing that coming over in the next few days. The intermediate sprints, the points at the finish, Mont Ventoux after the rest day. Matter of fact, I'm going to just look here at the points coming up here in the rest day. So you're going to have an intermediate sprint, and it's just, you can see this from what we actually have here. well, actually, I don't know. That's the wrong one. Where it's going to be just a hockey stick coming up at the finish. 20 points for the intermediate sprint, and then 30 points at the finish. Okay, so that's going to go to Tadej, but maybe someone can get it beforehand. Then the next day to Valence, it's maybe in one more day for the sprinters. 20 point there, 50 points at the finish. And then you have Col de la Loze. There's no way a sprinter is getting those points. 20 points on the intermediate sprint. And 20 points at the finish. Okay, so they at least mellow that out. I mean, maybe I'll go through this tonight and kind of see who's going to get what, and if there's any chance. Intermediate sprint once again on to La Plagne. There's no way. That's 20 points for the intermediate, but there's no way a sprinter is getting to the finish there. Only 20 points there. Stage 20 to Pontarlier. I don't think that's a sprinter's day. It could be. 30 points at the finish. There's an intermediate sprint for 20. And then the final day, which, by the way, our friends I was listening to, Porakapak. There you go. We made it. Okay. I listened to, look, stage 20 is, let's just take a look at this. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's what you're here for. Stage 20 normally is a full processional, as you guys were saying. It's just you're strolling down there. It's drinking champagne, and it's a doozy. I hate it. I absolutely hate it until they come into the Champs-Élysées, and then everyone races a bit full out. This year is different. This year, I don't know if you watched the Olympics that were in France. They had this hill, the Montmartre, and they hit it 3 times. And so you can see this little gray area here at the end. That is going to be, they always had these Cat 4s coming in here. That's not a problem. But these 3 climbs here at the finish could change everything, because as we saw in the race to in the Olympics, when you hit these climbs, brutal. Okay, so if the guys want to race, which they're going to be racing these are in the last, from 92 to 132. This is going to be on. I don't think of Jonathan Milan is going to be making it over this, as an example. So you're going to start, sprinters likely not going to make it, which means it could be a Tadej Pogačar winning the final. I mean, that would be fantastic, actually, to see. So that is a completely different scenario that you have that we did not expect prior. But anyway, here you go. Here's today's stage. Let's get back to it. The green jersey is going to be an issue that we're going to have to worry about, because we've got, once again, the points stacked up for the finish for Tadej on the climbs, but then you have the intermediate sprint that you're going to try to get to. But you're having days like today, I'm sorry to keep going back and forth here, days like today where you should be able to have the sprinters get to this intermediate sprint here. You can see the big S here at 60 kilometers into the stage, but Jonathan Milan is getting waxed early. I don't understand what the deal is, and you got some weirdness from Trek leading this thing. Okay, let's get into this here, because there is some really fascinating points that happened right away. There's a race up the road. Some guys are trying to get into it. Jorgensen goes up the road. You've got and this one is kind of skipping ahead. So I actually want to play. I think it's this one. Let's go here. I'm going to go back and forth between these two. Because this one plays the radio, okay, and fascinating, but the problem I have with this highlights package one, it doesn't show the kilometers that we have in the race. But Nilsson Palace takes off there right away. This was fascinating to me here. So I'm going to try to do this without getting struck, but Nilsson Palace is going up the road. Watch Matthew van der Poel coming around. This is where the big wreck happens, which I was just showing you on this one. But this is from the front angle here. Watch Matthew van der Poel. There's a wreck right here. It goes down right with him. Watch what he does. Attack. That is, to me, one of the most strange things I've seen, especially from such a classy guy. There's a lot of weird things that are going on today. And this one is just, I couldn't imagine why he did that. It just seems wrong to me in all kinds of fashions. Okay, but while this is happening, back of the race here, there's this wreck that goes down. It's got a little bit of these cobblestones in town, and one of the people going down in the wreck is Julian Alaphilippe. Now, he actually dislocates his shoulder. If you remember a few years ago, he actually had dislocated his shoulder. That comes into play because he actually says on the radio, and then we're going to be switching between these two. He actually says on the radio here you go. His team's like, he says, "Do you hear me?" "Yes, Lulu." "You crashed?" He says, "Yeah, I dislocated the shoulder, but I put it back." He actually says in the post-race that he remembered in the hospital how they put his shoulder back in, that it dislocated it, and he was able to do that. And then he finishes the race, but he finishes it in kind of interesting style, and we'll get to that part as well. If you've ever I had a friend that was snowboarding a lot, and he dislocated his shoulder until he had surgery. This thing was popping in and out all the time, and he learned how to basically put it back in himself. What's up, Victor? Glad to see you here as well. Those kind of things happen, and you don't want to be the kind of person that gets used to putting your shoulder back into place. But Alaphilippe did. Okay, he gets back into the race. This thing pops off, and 150s. Jorgensen gets into the break. Here's what's interesting here. You can see Matteo Jorgensen. He tries to get himself up in the break. He kind of is, and the yellow jersey is up there. So what you ended up seeing today is Pogačar chasing down the Jorgensen. He was making a big deal. Now, with that, there was something to be said, which is Jonas went down in a crash. So did Florian Lipowitz. Okay, they go down in the crash early on. When they went down, let's take a look here. This is kind of this whole time where Matteo is getting chased down. So Pogačar chases him down. Pogačar gets on the radio and said, hey, Jonas is down, Lipowitz is down, let's not race. Basically, let's let him catch up, kind of like what happened to the day before. Now, what's fascinating to me is the selection of the radio that's being broadcast. This is probably something at some point the teams are going to stop wanting to be a part of, because sometimes you've heard this race radio come over, between the teams, and they're able to capture it. Now, it's not being broadcast to everybody. This is their own internal, but they have rights out to the TV. They're like, sure, we will let you pipe in our what we're saying. So then they're taking selective things and they're putting it out. It's kind of like, okay, and today was fascinating because there was a lot of little positive things by Tadej. We heard that the day before, we didn't hear anything from the Visma team talking about like, hey, sit up and wait for Tadej when he crashed. But today, Tadej, they played over the radio where he's like, hey, Jonas and Lipowitz crashed, let's sit up and wait. However, when he's doing that, when he's stalling things, although he just chased down Jorgensen here, Wout attacks. This is, and then the UAE says, guys, Jonas, Lipowitz crashed. Okay. And then there's if you can slow it down, if you can slow down the group, that's what Tadej says. Now, what's fascinating is then as Jonas is getting dropped off, Wout's attacking off the front. And so Tadej has some choice words for the Visma team again. But I will repeat back to you what happened yesterday. Remember, Arsman has like 2 minutes or so over the chase group. EAE is keeping things in check. Sepp Kuss is up there. So is Simon Yates. As soon as those two detached, they allowed Arnsman to get another minute, and he hits the final climb with almost 350 and ends up holding on quite nicely. No big chase down by Tadej. When Jonas was like, I expected him to attack the whole way up the climb. He didn't. So finally at 4K, I decided to go. And very interesting because it's almost like at this point, Tadej's racing so other people don't win. However, UAE is still doing some things that Visma isn't doing, which is getting wins, even with that. And that may be a spoiler for what's going to happen for the rest of the day. Anyway, here's once again Tadej chasing down Jorgensen. Jorgensen, who sat up yesterday specifically to be able to get in the break, he was not allowed up in the break today. The break kept going up the road. Wout's trying to go up the road. Wout does kind of get up the road, but who does get up the road is Campenaerts for Visma. Along with Visma, you have Quinn Simmons. Who else? Nilsson Paulus, Carlos Rodriguez. There was an Ineos guy. Let's actually we can pull this out here. And I'll be able to get exactly who was in this, at least this first break. Let's go to the first intermediate sprint, though. Van der Poel takes the points on the intermediate sprint. Arnaud Delis, 17 points. Eckhorn, Jake Stewart. My point is you go all the way down. Tim Wellens with 15, and nobody, Benny Girmay didn't get any. Jonathan Milan didn't get any. So the only person that benefited today is Mathieu van der Poel. He's in the kind of get in the break. Lutsenko's up in the break. Nilsson Paulus is up there in the break. Like I said, Tim Wellens, Quinn Simmons, Michael Storer, Victor Campenaerts, and that's kind of your big guys off in the race for the day. Now, here's a problem I had, and this is why I think Quinn Simmons is not going to get a win, even though he's one of the strongest guys in this race. Captain America is out there. The way that these guys are racing in the break is just that they were given leeway today, so I think that made a difference. What I mean by leeway is you've seen this yesterday and a few other times where the break is only allowed like 2 minutes up the road. They are being held in check by the group behind. So it's imperative that they do everything they can to kind of roll together, don't attack each other. Because as soon as one guy attacks, Michael Storer is famous for this. He will attack and not work actually, and then attack, and then you get back up to him, then he yells at you for, hey, let's work together. And it's like, motherfucker, we were working together, and then you're gonna attack us. I'm not gonna keep working with you. So it just really dispels the cohesiveness. With that in mind, Storer's attacking, Campenart's going, Quinn Simmons is doing the same thing, and they keep bringing each other back, attacking, bringing each other back, and all you really end up doing at this point, in my opinion, is wearing yourself down. One person that didn't is the Belgian national champion, Tim Wellens, who rides for UAE. He's been doing a ton of work. He's a great rider. He's super strong. He just won in a solo effort the Belgian national championships, was a week before the Tour de France. He's deadly, okay? And he's sitting on, not doing any work. Now, I heard this with the Lance thing. They're like, look, you're in the yellow jersey. Your team is. You're getting a break. You're not required to pull through. And I'm like, that was what Wiggins said. And I'm like, maybe. But I haven't really ever seen that. I mean, you try to use that as an excuse. These riders, if they're smart about it, they'll ride you off the back. But the problem is Tim Wellens is too strong and too savvy to let that happen. And he did. One guy did try to ride him off the back, and he just said, it's fine. Then you're going to be off. And then the guy had to sprint back up, and he came with him. So he was sitting on, but about 45 kilometers to go, he attacks over the top of the Cat 2 and immediately has a gap. Quinn Simmons tries to go with him, can't close it down. And then the guys behind it, I'm like, you got Campenarts back here. You've got a bunch of other guys. You'd think that he'd be able to, they'd be able to pull him back. Now you saw this. Tade's like, but see, there's this stuff. How is he looking? How does he look? How does Tim look? Now you should reply, he looks fabulous. That's what Tade is saying. It's a weird marketing thing that the tour's doing in a way that it's like, oh, well, look how great Tade is. And they have such great cohesion. It's like, well, that's the clip they're playing. How do you know that other teams don't have? This is the kind of crap I heard on the move today. Anyway, Tim Wellens is doing great. About 16 kilometers. Quinn Simmons tries to make a move to bring him back. It's not going to happen. It looks good. Then Campenarts makes an attack off there, but it's too little, too late. Campenarts is a world hour record. I think he's an hour record holder. I know he took it from Bradley Wiggins. He's an amazing time trial specialist. You would think that he could have maybe got this group up there, but he's not going to win in a sprint. So he wants to go up there solo, but he doesn't. He leaves it too late. Tim Wellens easily comes in here, gets the win. Boom, boom. Campenarts comes in here, second place, a minute 30 down. But what's fascinating is you'd seen this group. We go back here just before Wellens attacked, right here, where you have Carlos Rodriguez. Who is this? Who is the other rider in here? Israel Primatech rider. We had, where's he at? I'm not sure. Stewart, maybe? Paulus, Israel, well, I'm not showing who the Israel. Oh, there he goes. Lutsenko. That's right. We already said Lutsenko. So Lutsenko's up here. He's a strong rider. Michael Storer, Campenarts, Quinn Simmons. These are all the group that was there. But right before the line, they get caught by Alaphilippe, Wout van Aert, who had been coming up hard, Axel Laurens from Ineos, Vlasov, Pinholt, Jordan Jagat. They all come in flying, and they do a sprint finish for the final. You think Wout would get it. He's losing steam. But Julian Alaphilippe, who we saw way back 150-some kilometers before that, pull his shoulder out. He puts it back in, gets back up to the main peloton, able to get himself up through the break, goes up there and connects with the main breakaway group, which is a minute 36 behind, wins the field sprint. But you know what? He thought he won on the day. He posts up, he celebrates, he thinks he wins the stage, partly because in the wreck, his radio got ruined. He didn't know that there were two guys still up the road. He wouldn't have, I don't know, necessarily won on the day. You know, racing would have happened different if those two guys hadn't have been off the front. But it was pretty fantastic to see a guy that was down on the ground first, on the first few kilometers, blows his shoulder out, puts it back in, gets himself back up, races up there, is able to sprint and pull on the bars like he did. Not only that, look at what's more impressive, the pulling on the bars or this. Watch this. Here, let's go back here. Watch this celebration. Look at this. Pulls on the bars, bike throw, both arms in the air with a big punch, all with a dislocated shoulder. The main group comes in a little bit later. Nothing to see here. Tim Wellens, well-deserved race on the day. Good for him. Yeah, okay, there you go. So there you go. Tim Wellens, Campenarts. So Wout gets 4th, so they just missed out on getting a 2-3 for Visma. But I didn't really like how they raced today. Once again, attacking when Jonas is off the back. Shit's getting weird because at some point I would like to see them either racing for stage wins, still helping Jonas. Jonas still might be in this thing. I mean, you know who has his sniffles and a sore throat? Tadej. He said he did. Hey, maybe you could have, maybe yesterday, if you guys hadn't sent the 2 guys off the road and you had Simon Yates and Sepp Kuss able to support, maybe you could have done something. Or here's maybe what you do now that you've seen this, which we saw this early on in the first few stages, which is Tadej, if Jorgensen makes any move, Tadej chasing him down. Yeah, well, at that point, Jorgensen was still in the GC contention. Now Tadej chases him down just because out of spite. Well, what if he's still with Jonas yesterday and he attacks in that main climb? Now you've got, if he's going to follow him, well, maybe you counter off of his following of Jorgensen. I don't know. Maybe you can use some of his spite to do this. Let's see. Did anybody not finish today? Van Elfelt didn't start today. Consoni comes in, so it doesn't look like anybody missed the time. The GC is unchanged, 4:13 down to Jonas. Actually, Ben Healy. Carlos Rodriguez was up in the break. He ended up moving up 1 spot. Ben Healy moving down. So you mix 9th and 10th on the day. No big deal there. Let's go to the points. Jonathan Milan at 251, 223 to Tadej, 210 to Vanderpool. So that one, like we said, is getting a little closer, and then we'll kind of see how tomorrow goes. Let me see. I wanted to see about. We could take a look here. There's all the sprints. So those are the points at the sprint. KOM isn't changing much. Do we even see that? And how about penalties? Anybody get any good penalties? Any cars running over anybody today? Mike Tennyson, irregular feeding, sticky bottle, Team XDS Astana, irregular sticky bottle, and disposing of waste outside the litter zone was Campenarts. He gets a 500 Swiss francs and 25 points penalty. Yikes! They're taking that serious. There you go. Let's go back here. I want to look at the results and look at the KOM. I think that we're still fine with Lenny Martinez, 8 points over Tadej. That might change tomorrow. Youth Jersey, Lipowitz, 125 over Only, and the team's Visma Lisa bike is winning that, but no one gives a shit about that category. Okay, so rest day tomorrow, and then we have the glorious Mont Ventoux. We'll do a little history lesson on that, but here it is. It's going to be, how far is this? 171.5, just a little bit over 100 miles. You can see this is a giant thing here, 15.6 kilometers up at 8.7%. But this last bit, it gets real sticky. Here's Mont Ventoux. Here's a look at it. So you can see it's desert scape going up to this climb. So if it gets windy, it's bad. A few years ago, when Chris Froome went up, I want to say 2013, there was so much wind at the top that they had to stop at the chalet. They couldn't go all the way to the top. It is featured in the Tour de France. Tom Simpson died up there, going up there in 1967. We'll play a little clip about that. But here you go. First up there in 1958, it was a time trial. 65, that's when, no, that's not because they went over the top. So these are all the times it's finished on the top. But it has gone through and over the back, and there's some interesting ones there. 1967, finished in Carpentras, which is where they're starting this time, and then they go up up through Bedouin and up to the chalet and then take a left. A few years ago in 2021, they did that on the far side, went up and over and around, and then came up back through Bedouin. But basically the top section and then finished back down on the side. They did it twice in that year, and Wout van Aert actually won it on that case. Let's take a look here. This was 1987 when I first started watching this race. There we go. 1987, when I first started watching this, they did a time trial up there, 36.5 kilometers. This race had 100 miles of time trial. They had one time trial, 86 kilometers. Okay. Fantastic. This year, the total distance is like 43 kilometers. So that race in 1987 was a bit mythic. Okay, let's play this clip real quick here. We'll just run it at normal speed, but I think this is some interesting stuff about Mont Ventoux.
The final stories of this year's Tour de France have yet to be told, and the ominous face of Mont Ventoux, where today the fate of the Tour might be decided, also brings back memories of a tragic Tour 2 decades ago. Here's Phil Liggett.
20 years ago, the Tour de France wrote one of its saddest chapters of its history. The great British cyclist Tommy Simpson died here on Mont Ventoux in the heat of the Provence summer. This is a barren mountain. Normally it's covered in snow throughout 7 months of the year. But at this particular time when Tommy died, there was a reflected heat of 150 degrees. Simpson was a kilometre from the top of the mountain when he was seen to zigzag across the road. Then, as he fell off his bike, the helpers came up and he said, "Put me back on my bike," and they did so. Within yards, Simpson fell again, and this time he died. Tommy Simpson was the greatest British cyclist ever. He's still the only British rider ever to have worn that leader's yellow jersey. The Tour de France will remember him forever. This year, Mont Ventoux...
I mean, that's literally a video of him dying. Right
is
there.
back in the race for the first time since 1974 for a time trial. It'll be a crucial part of the Tour, and it should write another chapter of this amazing race's history.
Okay, so
And this is Mont Ventoux today, the unhospitable mountain waiting for the early arrival.
I'm gonna skip through this a little bit, but this to me,
that is certain to provide.
I was in high school. I'm old, so when I was in high school, this has already happened, and I went to a private school, and this kid came over from Japan. And he loved cycling, and he was fairly new to it. And he, where's Jeff from NorCal Cycling? I haven't had Jeff on the show. Someone said here. I haven't seen Jeff on the show for quite some time. But I heard he got hit by a car or something like that recently, so maybe we'll talk about that. However, so this Japanese kid, Sam, and he's like, he loved this, he'd watch this, and he loved to see Jean-Francois Bernard winning in the end. Now, this is one where our buddy Annie Hampsten, actually, we'll finish here, see if we can, here's Jean-Francois Bernard. Let's see if we can get it up near the top. Hampsten blows. Herrera passes him.
Of mid-up toward the second down. No such cheers for Andy Hampsten. Was the best.
There you go. You love this part.
All of France were cheering now. A man who could take yellow. At the summit of the climb, Stephen Rhodes finishes with the excellent time of 1 hour, 22 minutes.
Okay, so one last thing I would say here about Mont Ventoux. So you heard the little. This is always fascinating. But British cyclist Tommy Simpson died on the mountain from heat exhaustion caused by a combination of factors, including dehydration. In parentheses, caused by a lack of fluid intake and diarrhea. Okay, use of amphetamines and alcohol. There's some great books about the Tour de France, and I think Daniel Friebe wrote one that was about the cannibal Eddie Merckx, and there was a few other ones, but they go into this a little bit more extensively. Tommy Simpson, like a lot of them in the days, were doing some serious drugs, okay? And and that was part of this problem of why, yeah, he had dehydration, but he had amphetamines and alcohol. This was kind of how they got through it, I guess. But when Phil Liggett's talking about there, it was 150 degrees reflective on the surface. I guess that's Fahrenheit, I would hope. Okay, but no one else is dying on this thing. He was under. Let's at least have some truth about this. Let's go here. We got a few questions here. Where's Jeff from NorCal Cycling? I think we answered that. How big was cycling in the U.S.? People are saying it died after Lance. It was the pot belch. Well, cycling, I don't know. After Lance, it really did take off. And you've had a little bit of resurgence. I think you have more of an underlying now. A few things. When Greg LeMond hit it big and won the Tour in '86 and then '89 and '90, he was on Sports Illustrated. He was Sportsman of the Year. It was a big deal. And he really helped cycling take off. And then it came more into the Tour de France started in about 85, 86 as far as being shown on TV. The little clips like we see there, that was once every Sunday. So you'd get like an hour and a half, 2 hour show the first Sunday, or actually it was a week into the race. You'd have a week recap, and then you'd have anyway. So you'd finally have those. And it was like, okay, it was cool. You got to follow it that way. And then, what is it, about 90, 91, 92, they started to show on ESPN like 30 minutes every day. So it would be that. And then it was a little bit more extensive. And it started to get people more used to this as a normal practicing viewership. And then Lance comes in, and, you know, every celebrity and their dog is watching this thing. He's, you know, Cancer Shield, this and that. And of course, cycling took off, and you have a lot of fans. I mean, but I've been doing this and being excited about it, racing since, you know, the Greg LeMond years. So, you know, it was more, I would video this, I mean, you know, record it all. I would watch it. I was, you know, way too into this, but I was also racing and whatnot. So it's hard for me to know, you know, how big as far as the America was. But yes, Lance did take this to a different height. And now I think it's a little bit more common that your people are just watching it. Okay, so I think it's a little bit more normalized, and maybe more eyes are on this. But you know, and ridership has been up and down. I mean, you know, we had the Tour of California here for several years. I did. I was pressed for that. It was pretty good, but, you know, it's the cost wise and everything. I mean, I don't know really how to answer that question. Okay, so there's, you know, the Mont Ventoux. I'm going to be interested in to see how actually that goes, the Mont Ventoux stage. So we got a break tomorrow, and then we got Mont Ventoux. We'll deal with that, and then a few more days in the mountains. Predictions on that: I see Tadej winning that. I would like to see some heat being pushed on him. I'd like to see him crack a little bit. That did happen in 2021, like I said, when they went over it twice. Jonas did actually break him on the second time, got some distance on him, but they went over the top and then down, and he was able to catch on with Carapaz, I believe, and you know, actually out sprint him at the finish. But so no harm, no foul. But Tadej's on a revenge tour, and part of that revenge tour is Hatakam. He got beat, was it 2022 by Jonas? Okay, that's the revenge time. 2020 and Col de la Loze, he got beat by, was he there? Yeah, because that was the year he actually won, but he got distanced a bit by Primoz on that time. And then they went up again in, was it 2023 or 2022? And John, that's when he said, "I'm dead." And then, so he has Col de la Loze to kind of overcome, and Mont Ventoux. So he's there. Did Kuss winning the Vuelta move the needle at all? No, it didn't. It did for me. I mean, look, what he had, 2023, Sepp Kuss wins that. 2013, 10 years prior, Chris Horner wins the Vuelta. That didn't move the needle. I'm sorry, that's a race where I find is fascinating. I absolutely love I love all three of the Grand Tours. I watch everything, but I really do love the Vuelta. It's a fascinating race, and for Sepp Kuss to win that, I thought was fantastic. It did some amazing things, you know, with the Visma winning 1, 2, and 3 as far as the 3 different Grand Tours that year, and then going 1, 2, 3 on that as well. It didn't necessarily move the needle, I think, for U.S. racing, because it's Sepp Kuss. You've got to have, you saw Alaphilippe here. His wife is an announcer on French TV. She also runs the women's Tour de Femme, okay? So she's kind of involved in, and he's a dynamic person. He's a huge, huge person in France. Lance was similar here in the U.S. Greg LeMond was better. Sepp Kuss isn't interested in that. He's doesn't even like being team leader. So at some point, cycling, just like other sports, just watching whatever it is. Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, which I don't watch, but she's at least an interesting person, right? So you have different people that have to come out as personalities, and you don't have that. It's hard to see that in cycling with a helmet and glasses and whatnot. Tadej's kind of that way, and he's dramatic on the bike, but you need someone like that. Quinn Simmons is a chance, okay, maybe. Let's talk about that real quick. So let's go to, I think I have a few of these I want to get back to. Let's do a quick stories here, and then we're done. This was yesterday. I don't know if we didn't talk about Alaphilippe, but there he is. He grabbed this woman's sign and then ripped it up and put it in his jersey to keep him from, getting too cold when he went down the mountain. Yeah, it does help, okay? And she was upset because it was a sign that basically said, "Wout, you and I are getting married." Now, Wout's already married with kids. So he felt bad about it. So he found her. He got a picture with her with Wout today. So there you go. Now, here's Alaphilippe. He says, "I managed to put my shoulder back into place. I remembered how they did it in the hospital. I fought hard. I had good legs. The radio stopped working after the crash. Like an idiot, I sprinted to try to win. Morale is okay." Okay, that's pretty good. Let's play this clip by...
Stage up to the... Well, Quinn, we talked this morning about the phase of the stage up to the intermediate sprint, and whether you were going to have to do a lot of work there, whether it might impact you later. Did it, do you think?
I mean, you spend... not too much energy, but any energy you spend is going to affect you in the final. But yeah, in the end, we got rode away from, and yeah, that's just how it is.
It looked very tactical, but was it a case of just the strongest guy winning today?
The strongest guy in the best moment with the moto.
Oh, you think the motor had a big impact?
I mean, did you not watch the coverage?
Well, we can't see everything.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's already, we've seen this a few times here on the tour, and you know how that's going to be. So one day you take advantage, most of the times someone else gets it.
That must be really frustrating because it is a bit of a recurring theme over the years. We hear it every year, and it's happened already in this tour, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think, yeah, but in the end, we all know it. So you just have to find a way to be the first guy to get that separation, because if you're the first guy with the separation, you're gone.
Even before Wellens went away, did you have that in mind, that the motor was going to play a big role?
Yeah, we know it's coming, and then, you know, he just chose a really good moment. And of course, you still have to be super strong. You know, it's not that it's just given for free, but yeah, it's definitely a factor that you have to think about and be ready to start early the race.
You've been one of the stars of this tour, but I guess the opportunities now are looking pretty scarce. You think there might be 2 left?
I count 3 in the final week, no?
Okay, we'll be waiting for you on those days.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Interesting. So he's still going to be going for it. Now, what he was talking about the moto, you see this. We talked about this a few days ago. You get off in the break, and the moto's there to film, and they have and it's really close to the front. But this is something that has been going on, you know, for years. We've been talking about this, and there's talk about. I want to say it was in the late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there. They had a time trial. And in the Giro, the Tour of Italy, and they had the helicopters overhead, and they were trying to help the Italian win, and so they were actually behind him blowing, trying to push him along. This is the kind of stuff that happens. Now, the moto, in this case, and in the Tour, I don't think they're doing that nefariously. They're just way too close. And you can have, I mean, technology is great nowadays where you can have, you know, zoom lenses. You don't have to be up there that close. But, you know, as he's kind of said, even though he's complaining about it, this is something you know about. So it's baked into it. Now, I would say that Quinn Simmons attacking as much as he was doing early before Tim Wellens got away is part of the reasons why Tim Wellens got away. Maybe you know, try to fire your bullets a little bit better. Tim Wellens did that at the appropriate moment. And there you go. Okay. Haha says, whoa, motorbike country. Yeah, yes, we have that. We hear all the time in Reddit. Funny seeing a rider call it out. Who's in Reddit? Where can I read this Giro story? I'll see if I can find that maybe on the rest day and talk. There's been multiple occasions of that, throwing tacks on the road. But yeah, the Giro is kind of famous for some of the. Although there were, I want to say 05, somewhere. Maybe it was a little later than that. It was the year that. TJ Van Garderen, who does, he's a DS now for EF, but he also does a commentary for Peacock in the, you know, kind of the stage with Paul and Brent Bookwalter. It was the year that he got 5th. They went over a climb, and it was a short little climb in the middle of a race, and there were a bunch of tacks on the road. Riders got flats like crazy. TJ rode, he was supposed to be riding for his teammate Caleb Ewan, not Caleb Ewan, Cadell Evans, sorry. And he just rode past him and he said, I didn't see him. Now, later on, he's admitted that, okay, yeah, I saw him. I just didn't. There's some controversy there. Yeah, so that kind of shit happens. Did I have one last thing? Okay, this is the last comment we'll do on the issue of the moto. The strongest guy in the best moment with the moto. I mean, did you not? Oh, yeah, it could be pretty much heard this. Tade says about Visma Lisa Bikes racing today. I think what Visma did to Jonas was very disrespectful. We talked about that just a little bit, which is they were attacking, Visma was attacking while Jonas was out the back. It was weird stuff by Visma. I don't know what's going on. Who's going to win at Mont Ventoux? Tade's going to win at Mont Ventoux. I think a breakaway should get away, but when you have that long climb exposed, they need 6 minutes of this. Back in 1997, I want to say, let's take a look here. What year was that? Eros Poli wins over Mont Ventoux. Where is that? I didn't have it here. There we go. Mont Ventoux, it was 1994. Eros Poli wins. He was the biggest guy in the race. He had 25 minutes going into the bottom of the climb. They go to the top, and then they kick back over the team to Carpentras, where the race is going to start on Tuesday. But that's where it finished down there. and he ended up having like a minute or a minute and a half at the top. So he needed 20 minutes to get over the top. He ends up winning. He was the biggest rider in the race at that time. If a break's going to get up the road, I don't know. You're going to have like 15 minutes to keep the GC guys away. We will see. See you guys next time. Have a good rest day. See you on Tuesday otherwise.